Order, order. We start with questions to the Secretary of State for Justice, John Mill.
Question number 1, please.
Secretary of State.
We're making significant investments in legal aid. We've announced additional funding of up to £34 million a year for criminal legal aid advocates and an additional £92 million per year for criminal legal aid solicitors. We're also uplifting housing and immigration legal fees by £20 million a year, the first major increase since 1996.
John Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Steve, a constituent of mine in Horsham, is currently being denied access to justice because he can't afford to take action against a publicly funded body under Competition and Markets Authority legislation. His only other option is to proceed on a no-win, no-fee basis. Will the Minister agree to meet with myself and Steve to discuss possible solutions?
Secretary of State.
Well, can I ask the honourable member to write to me first, because it does sound like there's some technical detail in that, and if necessary, of course, I'll ask the Minister to meet with him.
Chair of the Select Committee, Andy Slaughter.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. The Select Committee has just begun an inquiry into access to justice, and the evidence we're getting from that suggests that particularly civil and family legal aid are in a dire position, that fees are now approximately half what they were 28 years ago. There have been welcome increases in housing and immigration fees, but what wider plans does the Secretary of State have to review legal aid fees, particularly in the area of civil and family law?
Secretary of State.
I'm very grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman. He will recognise that the uplift of £20 million in housing and immigration is significant and is the first major uplift actually in my lifetime and his in Parliament. He's right that we should look across the piece at civil legal aid, combined with what's happening in our courts, and of course, over this next period, I'll continue to do that.
Jess Brown-Fuller, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my question follows on from the Chair of the Select Committees. In 2024, 39% of family court proceedings involved neither party being legally represented. In cases of domestic abuse, this forces victims to relive their experiences and confront their trauma repeatedly. The provision of legal aid in such cases is wholly inadequate, which means testing presenting an unacceptable barrier to many victims accessing fair and effective legal representation. So does the Secretary of State agree with me and the Domestic Abuse Commissioner that legal aid should be provided in all domestic abuse cases to end self-representation and protect victims from re-traumatisation?
Well, the Honourable Lady's right. Legal aid is important, but in some cases so is mediation. And I would refer her to the Pathfinder pilot, which is hugely important in relation to family private law. We are looking closely at provision, and we're also looking closely at the workforce, because like criminal legal aid, we did see particularly younger lawyers leaving that area of practice.
Steve Young.
Question number 2, please, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, we said that we are determined to remove foreign national offenders from our prisons sooner, and we have. I'm pleased to say that the number of foreign criminals removed from the country early has rocketed by 75% under this Labour government. More than 2,700 foreign national offenders were deported under the early removal scheme in the last year, up from just 1,560 under the last year the Tories were in charge.
Steve Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for his answer. I wonder what reassurance he can also give my constituents that foreign national offenders who commit serious crimes will be removed very promptly after sentencing, rather than allowing their appeal process to drag on. And would he agree with me that a deport first, appeal later approach would be most appropriate?
He's absolutely right. That's what we're doing, and the sentencing bill going through, which enables us to remove foreign nationals earlier, is a key component in that. We're absolutely clear. If you come to our country, you commit a crime, you've got no longer any right to be here.
Colin Lockhart.
Last week in Northern Ireland, a 26-year-old Palestinian migrant was found guilty of sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy. The police refused to publish an image of this man, meaning people do not know who he is or if he's showing concerning behaviour. Can the Minister assure us that whether in GB or in Northern Ireland, any migrant found guilty of sexual offences will not only have their picture published, but that they will be deported?
So state.
Well, we are deporting foreign nationals, as I've explained. This is a devolved issue, of course, and it would be wrong for me to comment on individual issues, but if she writes, she will get a ministerial response.
Sarah Green.
3, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the question from the Honourable Lady. The Government are committed to reforming the family courts to improve support for adult and child victims of domestic abuse. The Pathfinder model provides expert support to victims and doubles the proportion of children seen by social workers, and a quarter of all relevant cases will follow this model by January, and we're determined to go further.
Sarah Green.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Minister clearly knows that the backlog in the family courts is causing real distress. I have one family who've waited over a year for a court hearing. A year is a long time for a child, and we know others are waiting even longer. So can the Minister share what specific measures she's taking to ensure cases involving children and vulnerable families are resolved more quickly?
Minister.
No, I welcome that question, and the Honourable Lady is right. The delays in our family court are untenable, and families, children particularly, are waiting too long for resolution. It's why we're determined to go further by rolling out our Pathfinder model to ensure a child-centric approach to the family court. She will be aware that we are determined to repeal the issue of parental involvement through our Victims in Courts bill that's going through currently. We're also determined to really get to grips with our family court. But if the Honourable Lady writes to me with that specific case in mind, I'll make sure she gets a full response.
Question 4, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, all misogyny is abhorrent, but we know that online misogyny is becoming increasingly pervasive. We have criminalised the creation of intimate deepfakes without consent, and we are creating new offences in the Crime and Policing Bill, which will mean perpetrators who take intimate image without consent will face up to 2 years in prison, and we will be going further to ensure that we stamp out misogyny everywhere it is, online or in the real world.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituent, Dr Sam Rice, has set up a grassroots charity called Kids for Now, which supports parents who want to delay smartphones for their children. There is much evidence to support this approach. For example, Ofsted has found that 80% of teenage girls are put under pressure to provide sexual images of themselves, which often end up online. Does the Minister agree with me that the effect that online misogyny has on children must be tackled?
Minister.
I totally agree with my honourable friend. Online misogyny radicalises our boys, it pressures our girls, it fuels harmful attitudes, and it must be tackled in order to protect all of our children. The Government is acting through tougher laws. The Online Safety Act and our upcoming Violence Against Women and Girls strategy will protect children from harm online. Prevention, Mr Speaker, is fundamental here, so we are supporting schools to teach children about respect, consent and healthy relationships. And I can just inform the House that the Secretary of State for Education is in Australia right now, learning about the model over there to see how we can best learn lessons from that and apply them here.
Jim Shannon.
Mr Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for that answer. Minister, quite clear across the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, it's important that we all work together. Indeed, we should take it a stage further. We should also be working with the Republic of Ireland to ensure that they and us can work together to combat this. So can I ask the Minister a very quick question in relation to how we can do it better together in this United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? What discussions has the Minister had with the Northern Ireland Assembly and the relevant Minister? Thanks so much.
Minister.
I welcome that question from the honourable gentleman. He will know that these crimes, and especially online crimes around misogyny, have no borders. They do not act in a silo, and it is going to take all of us to tackle that, whether we are here in England and Wales jurisdiction of the criminal justice system or across our devolved counterparts in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and, as he states, in the Republic of Ireland too. We regularly meet with our counterparts to discuss these issues, and there is no stone unturned when it comes to tackling misogyny.
Sir Julian Smith.
Question number 5, Mr Speaker. Mediation saves people time, money and stress. It can also help reduce court delays and save the taxpayer money. Mandatory mediation for small money claims is now well integrated into the county court process, and it's delivering real results in terms of time savings and cost savings too.
Sir Julian.
Time pressure is one of the best routes to encourage ADR, as the Minister knows, but in the commercial court in 2024, the median time to judgment was 786 days. The UK law sector is up against huge pressures from Singapore and from the Middle East, who are offering 6 months to judgment and 6 months for appeal.
Can I urge ministers to look at the competitive challenges facing UK law against this tough international competition?
Minister.
He raises a really good point. Those sorts of delays are depriving our businesses of productivity and of the ability to resolve these disputes sooner. The successes we are seeing on small money claims under £10,000, which tend to affect small and medium-sized enterprises, shows the progress that can be made. The other thing I would point him to is the launch of our English law panel, which is looking at that issue of competitiveness with other jurisdictions.
Liz McIntyre.
Mr. Speaker, before entering this House, I was an employment solicitor and I saw the impact that judicial mediation had in our employment tribunals. Would the Minister agree to meet with me to discuss the role of expanding judicial mediation could have on bringing down the backlog in our employment tribunals?
Minister.
I welcome the honourable member's experience in this area, and I'd be happy to meet with him to discuss that very important subject.
Mr. Speaker.
The HMPPS Prisoner Escort and Custody Services team makes sure Serco meets its contract obligations and takes action when they fall short. Delays at Bournemouth courts are often caused by issues across the wider criminal justice system, and the contract management team continues to work closely with partners to resolve problems and improve service delivery.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We must ensure that courts like Bournemouth aren't being kept idle at a cost of thousands of taxpayers' pounds every day. After all, we have a backlog that we've got to clear thanks to the party opposite. Bournemouth piloted the Pathfinder model and it wants to do more, but it is being held back by private contractors like Serco. So will the government reconsider its approach, and will it consider alternative ways to deliver prisoners to court on time, thereby saving the taxpayer valuable money?
My honourable friend is absolutely right to raise the shocking situation in our Crown Courts and our civil courts that this government inherited from the party opposite. We must take action, and that's why my honourable friend, the Minister for Courts, will be setting out a wide-ranging package which will get a grip of the backlog and make sure our criminal justice system is fit for the future.
Andrew Rossen.
Question 7, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, prison security is a top priority, and we constantly update our countermeasures to keep pace with criminals who try to undermine them. This year, the government is investing over £40 million in physical security. This includes £10 million on anti-drone measures. Prisons also have X-ray body scanners, airport-style enhanced gate security and X-ray baggage scanners.
Andrew Rossen.
Minister, for his very helpful reply, but as he knows full well, violence, illegal drug dealing and escapes are on the rise in prisons, with a shocking 12% increase in breakouts across England and Wales since 2024, risking safety of all of our communities, with dangerous criminals also being released in error. So, when will the Justice Secretary take responsibility for this utter shambles, get a grip on the situation to ensure that dangerous criminals remain locked up behind bars and do the job he's supposed to be doing to keep the British people safe?
Mr. Speaker, I'm constantly aghast at the chutzpah of the party opposite, who left the prison system in utter crisis after 14 years. Prison officers' numbers reduced under the party opposite, prison places hardly rose at all. We are stabilising the prison system, investing in security measures to ensure that we have a prison system that is fit for the future and safe for the public.
Peter Bedford.
Mr. Speaker.
Justice Secretary.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer question 8 and 23 together. Everyone has a right to a fair trial, and the essence of a fair trial is a timely trial. Only 3% of all criminal cases are heard by a judge and jury under the current regime. Jury trials will remain a cornerstone of the British justice system. Delayed justice is justice denied.
Peter Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Justice Secretary may have complete faith in the independence of the judiciary. Sadly, I do not. We have seen a plethora of cases, particularly involving freedom of speech, where the judiciary has arguably been influenced by political correctness and virtue signalling of bodies like the Sentencing Council. If his proposals are designed to reduce the backlog, why do they not include a sunset clause?
Sarah State.
Well, can I say I completely reject what the honourable gentleman has said. It is an absolute essential foundation of our democracy that all of us in this House and in government respect the independence of the judiciary. And I would remind the honourable gentleman that it is precisely because of the independence that the judiciary are not able to answer for himself. The Lord Chancellor has that responsibility, and I will do it robustly.
Sir Ashley Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Lord Chancellor made his statement on jury trials last week, he said an impact assessment would be published with the legislation. Given how powerful a defender of jury trials he has been in the past, will he publish the evidence and the modelling that he has seen since coming to office, which caused him to change his mind?
So state.
Well, can I say, honourable gentleman, he's absolutely right. Whenever a government proposes legislation, there must be an impact assessment, both an economic impact assessment and an equality impact assessment, and of course we will publish it in the usual way.
Jessica Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Victims must be at the forefront of our minds when thinking about reforms to our justice system, many of whom wait years, often re-traumatised, going through the process of a criminal court trial. So can the Secretary of State tell me how these changes will ensure that we bring criminals properly and promptly to justice that brings matters closed for victims?
So state.
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, and she's absolutely right. A third of all sex victims in the backlog have now been waiting a year or more, and she knows that in many of those cases there are also defendants playing the system, pleading late, pre-hearing after pre-hearing, and witnesses then fall away, of course, and cases collapse. And it's for that reason that it's absolutely right that we change the threshold, introduce the measures that Brian Levison has properly looked at in order to speed up the process and get those victims justice.
Joel Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Justice Secretary wants to do away with some jury trials. He wants to extend the powers in the magistrates to sentence to up to 24 months without the right to appeal conviction or sentence. The capacity in prisons, I think I'm right, is at 88,000 as we speak today. Where are all these apparent guilty people going to be put?
So state.
Well, can I just... the honourable gentleman and I have been friends for a very long time, and I recognise his experience in matters related to criminal trials. Can I just remind him that, of course, we've got the sentencing bill passing through the House that, of course, will give us greater capacity in the prison system, and he will also know that the government is on track to provide 14,000 extra prison places by the early 2030s, or only 500 after the last government. All of that increases capacity, and of course we hope that jury trials will also make a difference for victims.
Sir David.
The Justice Secretary quite rightly says that justice delayed is justice denied, but summary justice is no justice at all. And he based much of his argument on the views of the eminent Lord Levison. But has he read the analysis of that review by Kenneth Rivlin, KC, who went through in great detail, in expert detail, the analysis and described much of it as unfounded and misguided because it's based on poor data? If he hasn't read it, will he please read it before he comes back to the House?
Can I say to the honourable gentleman that it was a serious independent panel, and I don't think you can sort of reject Sir Brian Levison out of hand in that way. And I'd remind him that David Allman was also on the panel, and of course the analysis was based on data, based on evidence internationally, and that's why it's important that we implement it, because there is no silver bullet. To effect change, we have to do it all. Otherwise, at the next general election, the backlog will have soared to over 100,000.
Sarah Coombs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I heard heartbreaking stories from my constituency of women who've waited years for their abuser to be brought to trial. This crisis that has developed in our courts is having a devastating impact on victims. Given that many of the previous reforms to judge, jury and magistrate trials over the last 50 years were also intended to speed up the system, can the Secretary of State outline how these proposed changes will fix the broken system and deliver swift justice for victims?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady. First, we need investment, more sitting days. We didn't get that under the last government. We're getting that now. Second, we need reform. We asked Sir Brian Leveson to look at this in great detail. He did that. We must now respond and not shirk from the reform that's necessary. And third, we need modernisation. That's why, for example, being able to get a transcript, being able to get a recording at magistrates is so important.
Robert Jenrick, Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under the Justice Secretary's plans to slash jury trials, he's giving magistrates more serious cases. However, he also plans to scrap the automatic right to appeal, a vital safety valve in courtrooms where justice is being delivered at pace by volunteers. Last year, 5,000 cases were appealed from magistrates' courts, of which more than 40% were upheld. Given that very high rate of successful appeals, will the Secretary of State be honest with the public and concede that curtailing appeals will unquestionably lead to miscarriages of justice?
Well, I've got to say to the Honourable Gentleman, the senior Honourable Gentleman on his backbenches has just said summary justice is no justice. Either you believe in our magistrates or you don't. I believe in our magistrates. But what Sir Brian recommended was a permission stage. And we accept his recommendation of creating a permission stage on appeal. That is the right thing to do, particularly because there are many appeals that have no merits, and that's why victims fall away.
Robert Jenrick.
If the Secretary of State maintains that this won't lead to miscarriages of justice, then he must be expecting the same number of cases to be appealed, in which case there's no point doing this in the first place. The truth is, deep down, the government is willing to tolerate some miscarriages of justice to save a paltry sum of money. And all the while, the solution is staring us in the face. Since the Justice Secretary announced his plan on the 2nd of December, 640 sitting days have been missed. Mr. Speaker, it's the end of term. The Justice Secretary's report card is marked improvement required. Will he reflect over Christmas and make scrapping his plan to slash jury trials a New Year's resolution we can all support?
Secretary of State.
I know that the Honourable Gentleman has more front than Blackpool Pier, but let's be clear, it is a permission stage that we are accepting that was recommended by Brian Leveson. What we need are more sitting days, more investment, and we're doing that. We cannot shirk reform, and he knows that jury trials will continue to be a cornerstone of the Crown Court system, and we need modernisation. All of that not done by the last government.
Sir John Whittingham.
Number 9, sir.
Minister.
Strategic lawsuits against public participation, otherwise known as SLAPs, are an abuse of the legal process and pose a threat to democracy. The government recognises the profound financial and psychological impact of SLAPs. That's why we commenced the SLAPs provisions in the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act 2023 related to economic crime SLAPs, and we're monitoring how that is operating.
Sir John.
While I welcome the Minister's answer, is she aware that in the space of 1 week, the Solicitors Regulation Authority has lost 2 tribunal cases relating to SLAPs? So does the government consider that the SRA is fit to purpose in this area? And is it not the case that further legislation to prevent lawyers from pursuing abusive cases is needed?
Minister.
Well, I really welcome his question, and we are considering actively where we can go further to extend the definition of SLAPs to those that range beyond economic crime. Obviously, the Solicitors Regulation Authority is independent of government, and I welcome their guidance, reminding solicitors of their duties and of the consequence of breaches, and I hope that they uphold that guidance robustly.
Tim Rock.
Number 10, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
last week I announced record funding for victim support services. That's 550 million over the next 3 years, the biggest investment in victim support services to date. This Labour government is putting victims at the heart of the justice system.
Jim Rocker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the increased funding. Victim support and commissioning of those services is incredibly important, and the operational independence of police and crime commissioners has been invaluable in that regard. So can I ask what assurances ministers can provide that with the abolition of PCCs, victim support won't be led by forces themselves, and that we keep the important progress that we've made over recent years?
So State.
We're very grateful to my honourable friend, and we have committed to provide PCCs with £1.3.8 million for the year 26-27 and £134 million for 27-28. This total is made up, of course, for their work on sexual violence and domestic abuse. Really important that we ring-fence that funding.
Sir Gavin Williams.
Mr. Speaker, building on the honourable gentleman's question, police and crime commissioners were able to act as a strong, independent voice for commissioners. And in none of what's been outlined so far, there's really a voice for victims in local areas. What will the Secretary of State do to try and make sure that that is remedied?
So State.
Well, we've got up to May 2028. It's important that we get the money in and that money particularly goes to the front line. And I think it is the case when I certainly meet with organisations on the ground, let's say an organisation like Rape Crisis, they are the voice of women on the front line. But of course we're looking very closely at how this interacts after we no longer have PCCs.
Lisa Smart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 11, please.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government takes seriously concerns about the operation of this Hague Convention in situations where domestic abuse is present. Internationally, the UK continues to work with other parties of the Convention to ensure that it operates effectively, particularly in cases involving domestic abuse. We have been an active member of the Steering Committee for 2 international forums to discuss and share best practice on this issue, and we have contributed financially as well to support these events.
Lisa Spark.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. 2 of my Hazel Grove constituents, who I won't name because they're going through active cases, have fled separately Australia and Poland with their children due to domestic abuse and coercive control from their partners. Many mothers, like them in similar circumstances, face the prospect of being compelled to return to the country they fled in order to accompany their children under the Hague Convention in the way the Minister describes. I had a very constructive meeting with the Minister back in June, since when the 2nd Forum on Domestic Violence and the 1980 Child Abduction Convention has taken place in Brazil. Could the Minister update the House on what progress specifically was made at that forum and whether the Government plans to bring forward proposals, legislative or otherwise, to strengthen legal protections for mothers and children fleeing abuse under the Hague Convention?
Well, I welcome the Honourable Lady's question and her continued engagement on this really important issue. The Government is now considering initiating further qualitative research on the operation of the 1980 Hague Convention in cases relating to domestic abuse, and I can confirm that this research will inform any future policy and ensure that reforms are grounded in robust evidence, improving outcomes for both children and survivors, and I will endeavour to keep her updated and involved in the development of that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Question number 12, sorry. 12.
I don't have number 1. Number 12. We have extended the period of time that certain prisoners on standard determinate sentences are eligible for moves into open conditions. We know that open conditions can lead to better outcomes for offenders and confront reoffending. This is because open prisons give offenders better opportunities to find work and re-establish relationships with friends and family, both of which are significantly proven to reduce the chances of reoffending.
Andrew Stowe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I agree with what the Minister just said. But through the early release programme and also looking at the models the government wants around a third to split the sentencing in custody, prisons such as Kirkham in Lancashire, in my constituency, are increasingly seeing their open prison population having a much higher turnover of prisoners increasingly who have been serving shorter sentences and are there for much shorter periods of time. They're effectively becoming Cat C prisons, but without the walls, the security and the resources. And we're concerned that the knock-on effect that is going to have on the ability to run those rehabilitation programmes, which are designed to have prisoners there for significant amounts of time at the end of their sentences. So what additional resources is the government going to put in to support the rehabilitation programmes in open prisons?
I'm grateful to the honourable member. He raises an important point. As the sentencing bill hopefully receives royal assent next year, there are certainly operational challenges to ensure that those reforms and changes to sentencing in our prison system work smoothly. One of the major measures in the sentencing bill, which, by the way, the party opposite opposes, is to reduce short-term sentences for the very reason that the honourable member has set out. I'm very happy to have a discussion about the prison in his constituency and to ensure that the department is working with them very closely to make sure that they are ready for the changes that will hopefully come into effect next year.
Michelle Welsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 13.
Mr. Speaker, we are enhancing security measures and easing crowding to curb violence and improve safety in prisons, as well as looking at measures to improve meaningful activity to increase welfare. We're investing around £15 million in protective equipment to help keep frontline staff working in prisons safe, including expanding the use of tasers and providing more protective body armour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Loudon Grange Prison in my constituency is a failing prison. I am inundated with correspondence from prisoners, families and staff who on a regular basis inform me about unsafe conditions and a toxic culture of bullying, incidents of violence, drugs, self-harm, many of which are not recorded, and no access to healthcare professionals. Since the last inspection in 2023, 10 prisoners have died. The prison has also had 32 days of lockdown in the past 2 years. The prison also has the worst possible rating for safety. Does the Minister agree with me that it's time the government made a direct intervention in this prison?
Minister.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friends raising this important case, and it's very much on the radar of the Ministry of Justice. I will be personally raising it with the Prisons Minister, Lord Timpson, in the other place, and I'm very personally committed. I will come to Loudon Grange in the new year, hopefully with her, and we can meet with the Governor and others to discuss these critical issues.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister will be aware that there are a number of prisoners at the present time who are undertaking a hunger strike. They are remand prisoners and some of them don't have a trial date until 2027. There are deep concerns expressed by them, their families and their legal representatives about access to medical treatment and the way they've been treated when taken to hospital as well. To help the situation, would the Minister be able to meet their legal representatives and families if necessary in order to discuss this situation and try and move forward to help the safety of these particular prisoners?
Minister.
No. Luckily, the Ministry of Justice and the Prison Service has a robust and proper guidance and procedures for when these scenarios come to fruition. I am satisfied, and the Ministry is satisfied, that those procedures are being enacted and will continue to keep it under review.
Matt Turner.
Question number 14, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Our magistrates are the backbone of local justice, and I want to thank every magistrate, the length and breadth of the country, who give of their time to deliver that justice. And in return, we need to support them. That is why we provide extensive training, not just at the start of their magistrate's journey, but we provide mentorship on a continuing basis. But I recognise that we want to go further in terms of providing stronger recognition for their service and also looking in the new year to overhauling the expenses regime so that we can support magistrates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her answer. I recently had the opportunity to visit the County and Family Court in Watford, and whilst there I was talking to them about the challenges around staff and finding sufficient staff. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that staffing is what makes magistrates and family courts work? And can she outline a little further, please, what support the government is offering to them? Thank you.
I agree with his point. I was glad to visit the newly reopened Barnet Court in my constituency, reopened after a year. And what I noticed is what I think many who cross the threshold into our courts, which is that first welcome that you get from court staff, often allaying nerves and anxiety in an alienating environment, is absolutely critical. That's why we want to support our court staff. It's why we're investing in legal advisors who support our magistrates, and it's why we're supporting all of them too. And I'd be happy to come and visit his local court in Watford if the opportunity arises.
Will Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to hear from the Minister how the Government is supporting magistrates and how she recently visited a recently reopened magistrates' court. The biggest single issue the Government could do in my constituency of Woking and my county of Surrey is reopen Woking Magistrates' Court that was closed by the former Conservative Government. Will the Government consider reopening Woking Magistrates' Court?
Oh.
Well, we keep our court's estate and the assessment of need under constant review. I'd be very happy for him to write to me so we can look into the provision in his area.
What was good for the Minister might be good for Chorley as well, with the reopening of a court. Debbie Abrams.
Question 15, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 15 and 20 together. The Government, as you will know, inherited a justice system in crisis. Whether a family experiencing family breakdown, small business owners trying to resolve contractual disputes, or victims of crime, we inherited a system in crisis in every jurisdiction, and we're beginning to turn that oil tanker around. We are sitting at maximum or close to maximum in every single jurisdiction, whilst investing up to £450 million in our courts every year.
Debbie Abrams.
I'm grateful to the Minister for her answer, and she will recall last week I asked and mentioned about 2 cases that I have involving juveniles and child sexual abuse. The cases of alleged sexual abuse have been adjourned a number of times, and as I explained to her, the damage that this is doing to them and their lives cannot be underestimated. So I appreciate in terms of the reforms that are underway, but what urgent steps can be taken now to make sure that these children have the justice that they deserve and can continue their lives?
Minister.
I am grateful to her raising this absolutely shocking case, which I'm aware of, and I'll be writing to her on the particulars of it. It graphically demonstrates precisely why we need reform of our criminal courts. As the Deputy Prime Minister just explained, that will take 3 things. Investment, which we're currently seeing in both sitting days and criminal legal aid. It will take systemic reform, and it will take modernisation. And that third component, how we can improve efficiencies in the here and now through better adoption of technology, through improving the smoother running of our courts, will help the victims in the case that she outlines.
Render Just.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Justice delayed is justice denied is, of course, a harsh reality for the nearly 80,000 cases that are currently waiting to be heard in the Crown Court, and I'm pleased that the Government is taking action to modernise our justice system and to be reassured that the sanctity of jury trials will be preserved. But considering that only 3% of criminal cases are currently tried by a jury, what assessment has the Minister made on the impact that removing jury trials from certain either-way offences will have on significantly reducing the present unacceptable court backlogs?
Minister.
Well, he raises a number of incredibly important points. Those 80,000 cases in the backlog, behind each and every one of those cases, there's a victim. There's someone who's accused who may be trying to clear their name. And as those backlogs head in the wrong direction with agonising delays for all participants, we will not sit idly by. And it's why we've adopted the recommendations of the independent review of criminal courts, which makes a very important observation, which is that currently 90% of cases in this country are dealt with without a jury, robustly, properly, and in a timely fashion in our magistrates' court. And it's why all of the package, not a pick and mix, the package of reforms that we are bringing forward is designed to deliver swifter justice for victims.
Dr. Neil Shuster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. One of the contributing factors to the court backlog is the state of disrepair of our court infrastructure. So can the Minister set out how many of the more than 500 Crown Court rooms are currently unusable because of their state of repair?
Minister.
He is absolutely right. The crumbling and decaying state of our court estate, if you like, has become a metaphor for the justice system that we inherited from the previous government. It's why we've increased the court's estates budget. It's why we're opening new courts in Blackpool. It's why we're putting shovels in the ground in inner London. It's why we've increased that court's estates budget by £28 million so that we can improve maintenance to keep as many courtrooms running as possible. But in the end, as Sir Brian Levison tells us, money alone will not be enough. We need reform so that we can run the system at capacity and deliver swifter justice for victims.
Thank you, Slade.
Mr. Speaker, when this government came in July 2024, magistrates were dealing with cases up to 6 months. Now it's 12 months, and by next year it could be 2 years. And there's already a backlog of 361,000 cases in the Magistrates' Court. In my meeting with the Law Society today, they expressed deep concerns that magistrates would be able to take on longer, more emotionally draining cases, and that actually some magistrates may decide that they weren't comfortable with depriving people of their liberty for that long. What assessment has been done of the ability of magistrates to cope emotionally, but also the Magistrates' Courts to cope with those increases?
Minister.
Well, I think she's referring to the sentencing powers and the proposal to increase sentencing powers rather than the wait time. The fact is that our Magistrates' Court is an efficient jurisdiction dealing with 1.3 million cases a year. The fact that the Magistrates' Association and the Magistrates' Leadership Executive have endorsed the government plans speaks to the vote of confidence that we are placing in our magistrates to deal with the caseload, the volume of cases and the nature swiftly and robustly and fairly. But of course, she's right that our magistrates deserve the support for dealing with emotionally charged matters, and it's that support and that training that we will be ensuring is provided.
Sir John Hayes.
Question 16, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, following the changes in the sentencing bill, there will be more criminals behind bars than ever before, and those convicted of the most serious crimes will be unaffected, and they will remain in prison for as long as they do now.
Sir John.
The salient difference between the government and the people is the public expects vile, vicious, violent people to be locked up so they can ruin no more lives, whereas the government wants to let them free, including eligibility applying to about 2/3 of rapists and 83% of child sex offenders. Is it any wonder, Mr. Speaker, that the Domestic Abuse Commissioner and the Victims Commissioner have criticised these plans? So will the government at least exclude those kind of offenders before they implement this policy? For otherwise, they will wreak harm, hurt and hate to every part of our country.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I had the great pleasure of hearing the right honourable member's contributions in report stage and committee stage on the sentencing bill. I remind him, as I reminded him then, that we inherited a prison system on the brink of collapse. And the worst way to fail victims is if we have the worst offenders and there are no prison places for them to be kept behind bars. We will not allow that to happen. I remind him again that the sentencing bill is informed by the Independent Sentencing Review, led by a former Conservative Lord Chancellor, who offered sensible reforms to ensure that our prison system can cope with the demands, is fit for the future. And I remind him finally, this is not soft on crime, Mr. Speaker. By the end of this Parliament, there will be more criminals behind bars than ever before under this Labour government.
Shadow Minister Dr. Kieran Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this week the government pledged action on violence against women and girls, an issue that I know many members across this House care deeply about, including many members opposite. But at the same time, this so-called earned progression model will see thousands of rapists, child groomers and paedophiles let out of prison earlier. And shockingly, Mr. Speaker, this last week a government minister said that the reason for this, that they couldn't be excluded, was because it would increase the risk of inaccuracies in release calculations. Does the minister think that a single victim of a rape should expect the offender to be let out of prison earlier because the government can't calculate the release date properly?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we won't take any lessons about violence against women and girls from the party opposite. Prosecutions for rape went down under the last Conservative government. We are taking action to protect women and girls. And I will repeat the point, Mr. Speaker. For victims of the worst offences, the scenario that we faced last summer, that when those offenders were convicted, there was not space in prison to keep them behind bars. That is wholly unacceptable, and this government will never let that happen again.
Kieran Mullen.
Mr. Speaker, the House will have heard that they are refusing to exclude those types of offenders. And I'm pleased to say there are actually a number of members on the benches opposite that share my discomfort with the measures that the government is taking. And in fact, the member for Amber Valley, the Labour member for Amber Valley, tabled previously an amendment to exclude existing offenders from the measures. Why does the Minister think she did that?
Minister.
I speak regularly with my honourable friend, the member for Amber Valley, who was an experienced CPS prosecutor. And when I speak to her, she tells me that the worst scenario for prosecutors who are trying to keep our streets safe is when the prisons are full and offenders cannot be kept behind bars. That was the situation that the last party left in this country. We're fixing their mess.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Justice Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to pay tribute to Lenny Scott, who was a dedicated prison officer and much-loved family man. In 2020, he seized an illicit mobile phone from a prisoner who took revenge 4 years later by taking his life in broad daylight. Perpetrators of heinous killings like these must feel the full force of the law. I can announce today that we will broaden the starting point for whole life orders to include murders connected to the current or former duties of a police, prison or probation officer. This means offenders can expect to spend the rest of their lives behind bars. It is the latest step this government is taking to keep our hard-working prison and probation staff safe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for that clarification. Mr. Speaker, by the time my constituent gets her day in court, she would have waited nearly a decade for justice. This is the cost of the Tories' broken court system. Unacceptable waits contributing to tragically high number of victims who don't proceed to trial, resulting in near total impunity for the men who commit serious cases of sexual assault and domestic abuse. I know my right honourable friend is working tirelessly to reduce the court's backlog. What is he doing to ensure that victims are put first so that they don't have to face waiting a decade for justice?
Justice Secretary.
Well, I'm truly grateful to my honourable friend for once again raising the voice of victims in this House. And I hope over the coming months, as we debate our courts bill, that honourable members will keep in mind those victims and the voices that we often hear from female members of Parliament. The 550 million that I found for victims, multi-year funding to give them certainty was essential. We will continue to keep victims front in mind.
Chair Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I commend the Justice Secretary for the government's decision to extend whole life orders to prison officers. 2 weeks ago I had the privilege of meeting the parents of Lenny Scott when they came to Parliament, and it is absolutely right that we extend this to brave prison officers who are killed both in the course of their duties and in the exceptional circumstances that faced Lenny Scott after they had left the service. So he can be assured of the support of those of us on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, the Justice Secretary appeared on Sky News and revealed that 12 more prisoners had been mistakenly released and 2 remained on the run. So I have 2 very simple questions. Since then, how many prisoners have been mistakenly released? And how many more remain on the run?
Minister.
The Deputy Prime Minister set out a 5-point plan to deal with the long-standing issue that we've had in our criminal justice system of release in errors. There were 800 release in errors under the party opposite when they were in government, and never once did they come to this House and give an update to the House. We're going to be releasing much more of that data over the coming months.
Robert Jenrick.
Mr. Speaker, in all the years I've been in the House, I've never known a Secretary of State fail to answer the first question from his opposite number. But that says a lot about the man. Look, the Justice Secretary was fine answering questions 2 weeks ago on the media when the police investigation was underway. But now he says, or his minister does in his stay, that it will be inappropriate to comment in the House of Commons. Well, utter nonsense. Does he seriously think anyone is buying that excuse? He either doesn't know the details or he's covering up his failure, both of which, frankly, are a dereliction of duty. And, Mr. Speaker, how on earth does he think the public can assist the manhunts that are presumably underway across our country and clear up his mess if he won't publish the names or the mugshot of the prisoners mistakenly released? Once again, he's endangering the British public.
Minister. Utter nonsense, Mr. Speaker. we don't take advice on the operational challenges which we face when we do come across these issues from the party opposite. We will engage with the police directly. We will not be giving a running commentary on this issue, because this has been a long-standing issue of a criminal justice system that is failing after 14 years of the party opposite in government. We have set out a 5-point plan in which we are attempting to grapple with this problem, and Dame Owens will be reporting back to the government early next year, and we look forward to hearing her recommendations.
Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to raise the issue of my constituent from Pinkston. They were awarded a substantial amount of money at an employment tribunal over 2 years ago for unpaid wages. They haven't been able to track down the company since then. They're using a shell address. They're not responding to any correspondence. The constituent has paid a private company to try and find the company, and they have got nowhere. There's been 2 years of hardship and mental health issues. Will the Secretary of State outline what steps are being taken to make sure that hard-working people get the money that is owed to them?
Workers must receive the awards that they're entitled to, and the case that she raises demonstrates the need that this government will take up to strengthen enforcement by transferring responsibilities to the new Fair Work Agency, working with HMRC and the Insolvency Service to drive compliance and crack down on non-payments, which will help constituents like hers.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Jess Brown-Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Andrew Turner has been fighting on behalf of parents of disabled children across the country who can't access their children's trust funds when their child turns 18, even though that money could support with the additional cost of living when you are a profoundly disabled young adult. Andrew has seen 10 Justice Ministers come and go since he started his campaign. Can the Minister assure me today that the current Minister will be the last one Andrew has to meet before the situation is remedied?
Minister.
I thank her for her question. I met with Andrew Turner. He is a tireless campaigner, and we were embarking on the work that I think is necessary to support families like his and those that he represents. I have personally undertaken to ensure that that work continues, irrespective of which personnel is sitting in the chair, and I will follow up not just with Andrew, but I know his very dedicated MP, and I forget the constituency, but I will follow up with Andrew and those who represent him.
Joe Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the beginning of December, a sapling from the Sycamore Gap tree was planted by Michaela Trussler and her family to commemorate what would have been her daughter's 18th birthday. Since Holly Newton's tragic murder, Michaela has campaigned tirelessly to reduce the age limit at which someone can legally be classified as a domestic abuse victim. Would the Secretary of State join me in recognising Michaela's tireless campaigning and meet with Michaela and myself in the new year to discuss age classification for victims of domestic abuse?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising this, and I will of course be delighted to meet with him and Michaela, and I thank her for her tireless campaigning on this issue. I share the concerns about abuse in teenage relationships. I am pleased to say that we are conducting a scoping review of the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, including the age limit of victims, to ensure that adolescent relationships are captured. The upcoming Violence Against Women and Girls strategy will also set out steps to tackle teenage relationship abuse, and I look forward to meeting with him and Michaela.
Greg Rister.
Mr. Speaker, the Justice Secretary's plan to slash jury trials without any guarantee the backlog of cases will fall has not survived first contact with the Labour backbenches. The backlash has forced Number 10 to reassure Labour members that legislation won't be introduced until October of next year. But the Justice Secretary's team insist it will be coming in February. They can't both be right. So can the Justice Secretary now confirm at the dispatch box when the legislation is coming forward?
The Honourable Gentleman can do better than that. It's not true. We're serious about bringing down the backlog. And so that means that, of course, we want to introduce our courts bill in the early part of next year.
Elsie Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following a string of shocking cases in which the bodies of the deceased were not treated with the care and respect they deserved by funeral directors, can the Minister update the House on cross-departmental work being done to regulate the funeral industry?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that very important question, and it was an honour to meet with him and victims and the bereaved families who have been affected by this horrific situation. Our thoughts remain with those grieving families, Mr Speaker, who rightly expect their babies and the deceased to be treated with dignity and respect. That is the minimum that they deserve. We are committed to taking action here, and the honourable member might be aware that the Department for Health and Social Care has today published their interim review into the fuller inquiry. I look forward to reading that and working with him and others to ensure that those recommendations are followed.
Miller. Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituent is a female probation officer in the early stages of her career. She came to my surgery last week because she is scared for her own safety at work. 3 weeks ago, her colleague in the Oxford Probation Office, who was following the guidelines put in place following the similar attack in Preston in July, was stabbed multiple times by somebody on probation. So will the Minister meet with me and my constituent to discuss extending the Assaults on Emergency Workers Offences Act, which already covers prison and custody officers, to probation officers?
I'm very grateful that the Prisons Minister meets with him. We will do everything we can to keep our probation officers safe.
Josh Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With some victims of sexual assault being told that their trials might not be heard until 2029, what can we do to reduce delays and tackle the backlogs so that victims can be confident they will get justice and they don't have to face the associated trauma of these delays?
550 million for victims was essential. Getting the courts built and implementing Sir Brian Levison's review is essential, and modernisation and all the work and money that we're putting into our court system.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Whatever changes the Minister is seeking to make to juries, this will not make one bit of difference in my North Norfolk constituency if people can't get the legal advice that they need. Can the Secretary of State assure me that recent funding announcement will be targeted at legal aid deserts like North Norfolk? And at the third time of asking, will a Minister please meet with me and legal aid professionals to discuss their challenges?
Who wants it? Secretary of State.
Yes, we will ensure that that money reaches his constituency, and I'll ensure that the Minister meets with him.
Mr Speaker, Home Office changes to skilled worker visa thresholds will impact large numbers of prison officers who have migrated from countries such as Nigeria. The Prison Officers Association has made it clear that the prison system could collapse if this policy is applied. Please could ministers update the House on what conversations are ongoing with the Home Office and if there will be any exceptions?
Well, I'm very grateful to my right honourable friend, and she's absolutely right to put on record the huge support that we've had, particularly from West Africans in our prison systems, for which I'm very grateful. I am in discussion with the Home Secretary. I hope to update the House shortly on that. I do see a way through.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I just build on the excellent questioning by the Shadow Secretary of State? How many prisoners have been mistakenly released, and how many will it take before the Justice Secretary considers his position?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we've already made it very clear during this Justice Oral Questions that we're not going to be giving a running commentary on the numbers. This government is taking action to deal with this problem in our criminal justice system, which, by the way, the party opposite, over 14 years, did not do anything.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In Rochdale, our police work closely with staff from the Sexual Assault Referral Centre in St Mary's in Manchester, and they help rape victims through every step of the legal process. But for many rape victims, the most traumatic thing is facing their rapist in court. So will the government explain and how they're going to help stop victims being smeared by defence lawyers as money grabbers, and also how we can take into account in court the evidence of previous domestic abuse?
Minister.
My honourable friend is absolutely right. That is why we are determined to ensuring that rape victims are treated with compassion and dignity throughout the entire criminal justice process. We are committed to implementing the Law Commission's review on bad character evidence, tackling those rape myths and stereotypes, and we are committed to our manifesto commitment of introducing independent legal advisers for adult rape victims to ensure that they get the support that they desperately need.
Seamus Logan.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Ministers have responded to me on 2 previous occasions very helpfully regarding the 68 is too late campaign. Last January and most recently in writing in September, on both occasions indicating that the government were prepared to amend or at least review pension provisions. Indeed, a working group was established to examine similar terms currently in place within the MOD. Can the Minister provide an update on the working group's proposals and the government's intentions?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, very grateful for the honourable member's question. The government regularly meet with trade unions, the Prison Officers Association. I take this opportunity to put on record again our thanks to prison officers who do an extraordinarily difficult job in very difficult circumstances, and we'll be updating the House on that issue in due course.
Lord McAvoy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Earlier this year, a man was convicted by a jury of sexual assault of a child under the age of 13. This vile perpetrator was given a suspended sentence with his mental health cited as the reason for the suspension. He was spared prison, and crucially, his mental health had no impact on his culpability for this horrible crime. My constituents have sought justice, and I agree with them that this is outrageously lenient. Will the Secretary of State please write to the Sentencing Council to stress that this government believe that those found guilty of sexual crimes against children should go to prison, and that suspended sentences must only be granted in the rarest, most extreme mitigating circumstances?
So state.
Well, I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady and for her campaigning on this issue. I know that she knows that I can't comment on the individual case which was subject to a review, but I do know that the Minister is meeting with the Chair of the Sentencing Council and will take forward her recommendations.
Mr
Speaker, both this government and the previous government tried to get to grips with the increasing problem of smuggling of illegal drugs into prisons. Can the Secretary of State indicate that this government, this time, will get to grips with this problem so that people can be reassured that it is not a continuing and escalating issue?
The Honourable Gentleman is absolutely right, and that's why the 40 million we're investing in drone technology particularly is important, but also new X-ray machines across our prisons to drive down drug use.
Michelle Scroggin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Forest with Impact are delivering innovative prisoner rehabilitation through horticulture, paid work and accredited training at HMP Havering, helping people gain skills for employment on release while contributing to environmental recovery. Would the Minister be willing to visit to see this work firsthand and meet with me to discuss how similar schemes could be supported more widely?
I thank my honourable friend for that important question. Absolutely, it sounds like a really important initiative. A big swathe of this government's agenda is trying to tackle reoffending, which means improving rehabilitative services within our prisons. I look forward to meeting this one with her in the new year.
Mr Speaker, 1 in 3 rape trials end up being postponed, in some cases more than 6 times. During the process, 73% of rape survivors say police treatment worsened their mental health. What improvements will be made of how the police treat survivors of rape?
Well, can I assure the Honourable Lady that the Criminal Justice Board met recently, and that brings all the justice partners together, and of course the police are represented on that board, but I would urge her to look closely at the Courts Bill coming forward, because the reform that we need to reduce the backlog is within it.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the news that the Deputy Prime Minister has been appointed to lead on a national summit on the issues affecting men and boys in this country. But with politics, and let's face it, progressive politics including that, all too often failing to see and speak to some of the specific challenges faced by men and young boys growing up in Britain today, how can we make the most of this summit to be a truly catalysing moment to start to put this right?
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for championing this issue as part of our mission on violence against women and girls. We must build a positive agenda that promotes opportunities for men and boys, but in no way is at the expense of opportunities for women and girls. The Prime Minister has announced a new programme of work which will be led by myself and Minister Davies-Jones, and that will include a national summit for men and boys next year.
Alison Bennett.
Speaker, Survivors Network support all victims of sexual assault and abuse right across Sussex, and that's why me and my honourable friend the member for Chichester met them at the start of the month. They told us that due to rising costs of mixed inflation, £40,000 of their costs are now unfunded. Given the government's emphasis on driving down sexual violence, is this the right decision?
Minister.
Well, the Honourable Lady may have missed the announcement of £550 million going in to support victims and support services, the biggest amount ever. I have met with victim support services across England and Wales who have been welcoming this announcement. This money will be transformational, it will change lives, but victim support on its own isn't enough, and that is why we need to take every step possible to reform our criminal justice system, which this government is doing.
Ewan Steinbank.
Speaker. The House will all deliver a generational strengthening of legal aid, but does the Minister share my constituents' concerns that the Scottish Government have yet to confirm whether similar non-means tested legal aid will be available for bereaved families in Scotland?
No, I thank my honourable friend's question here. I can confirm that we have had positive conversations with the Scottish Government about extending the provision to Scotland. This is a matter for them. We are engaging in positive conversations, and they have shown willing in wanting to adopt the same model that we will be adopting to provide legal aid, non-means tested legal aid, for all bereaved families who have had state involvement in the death of their loved one.
Has the Secretary of State's Department had any contact with the Minister of Justice in Northern Ireland over the looming crisis in criminal justice arising from the fact that on the 5th of January the criminal barristers are going on strike because there has not been an uplift in legal aid rates since 2005? And if contact is made, will the Minister of Justice in Northern Ireland be asked why, given her statutory duty to review the rates, she paused the last review in 2022, and why, when she announced an interim uplift last year, it has never been paid?
Minister.
The honourable member will know this is a devolved matter. I met with the Justice Ministers from all the devolved nations last week, and we continue to have that dialogue to ensure that justice is served across all 4 countries.
Andy Slaughter, Chair of the...
Thank you much, Mr. Speaker. Is the Minister aware there's a crisis in family mediation with no confirmation of mediation vouchers going beyond next April, and over half of legal aid providers forced to give up in the last 8 years? Does the Minister agree that this is short-sighted, as mediation saves time, money and families? And will the Government work with the Family Mediation Council to rescue the sector?
Well, mediation is hugely successful, and so I'd want to reassure the honourable gentleman that we will continue to talk to the sector about this issue, and I'll update him in the coming weeks.
Final question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sat on the Public Office Accountability Bill Committee, better known as the Hillsborough Law, and I was very, very grateful to the Minister for agreeing to meet with the MP for Cheadle and me to discuss 11 amendments, 2 new clauses and other general points that came up in the line-by-line scrutiny. The Minister was very clear that she's a woman on a mission and she wanted this bill on the statute book as soon as possible. But can I seek her assurance she will meet with my colleague and me before the bill reaches report stage? Thank you, sir.
Minister. Yes, I am confident. I am a woman on the mission. The Honourable Lady is right. I will be meeting with her early in the new year, ahead of report stage, to discuss her amendments and the bill's progression through the House.
Right, that completes questions. Let the front bench change over. Right, we now come to the urgent question. Dame Priti Patel.
Mr. Speaker, and for granting this urgent question, because every single day we discover that Labour's betrayal of the British Chagossian community continues, to ask the Secretary of State for the FCDO if she'll make a statement on the rights of British Chagossians to access the trust fund and resettle the Chagos archipelago.
Minister.
On the 22nd of May, the Diego Garcia Treaty was signed and laid before the House. As the Defence Secretary told this House on the day of signature, the treaty secures the strategically important UK-US military base on the island of Diego Garcia. The Diego Garcia military base is essential to the security of the UK and our key allies, and essential